Robert, nice to see you. And thanks for having me on. So, right now, one of the things that really excites me is that I'm helping create a management school in India. They've, there's something called the Management School of Events, Entertainment, and Design, and they asked me if I wanted to be involved with that, and I said, "Of course I do. That sounds interesting." So that's one of the things I'm helping with, both on a strategic level, but also we'll be going over there to teach later in the year. So that's one of my excites me right now projects, a management school in India. So I think let's start by removing the uniquely qualified part. That since what I talk about and what I do is help people with getting shit done, the overpaid rock star thing is taken directly from my website. And I find that to be broad enough that it allows me to do anything. And most people say, you know what? Would I like to get more shit done? Yeah. The US just elected a president based on his ability to say, I'll get it done. Whether one agrees or not with him, whether one likes him or not, completely out of the, not interesting here. The interesting thing is he basically said, trust me, I'll get it done. And that was enough to get him elected with 77 million votes. So there's some power in that ability to say, don't worry, I'll help you get it done. And that means that stuff ends up in my lap sometimes randomly. And I tend to say yes more than I tend to say no. So number one thing, number by far, right? There's plenty of things, and there's even like if people are curious, ooh, there's a book about it. But if you have to take one thing out of that, it is self-sabotage. It's perfectionism. It's the idea that it needs to be better. It could be better, therefore it must be better, and that's what keeps most people from doing things. And if you couple that with an overly unrealistic idea about how much you matter to other people, not you, Robert, you're special, right? I'm special, but most people, right? Most people don't care. And I think part of it is that we suffer from bikini body syndrome just with our professional work. The idea that I cannot go to the beach because my body is not beach ready. What will happen, right? I'm a reasonably overweight guy. I'm pasty white. If I go to a beach, what happens? Nothing, because people are not there to watch me. They're there to with their families or their friends or to find somebody to flirt with or to have an ice cream. They're maybe even there to swim if they're really wild. Nobody's there to care about what a middle-aged white dude, what he looks like. And even if they do, even if they think, oh, that guy should have stayed at home, how many are going to tell me? Realistically, not that many, because I'm not that interesting in their life. And that means most of us have this idea that, oh, we shouldn't do it because other people will notice. And the reality is not they'll notice. The reality is they won't even care. They won't even notice. And that those two things together tend to hold us back more than anything else. The idea that it must be better, or I have standards, quality, ooh, whatever excuse people make for themselves. And the second is this idea that other people care. Sure, if you're Taylor Swift, they care. I'm not Taylor Swift, so I can mess up like crazy and still get on with my life. Taylor Swift, a little bit tougher. So a usual before picture, whether it's a larger corporation or it's a smaller one or it's a solopreneur, is that they have somewhere they want to go, right? They want more revenue. They want to get into the French market, or they want to launch something new. And they've built a picture in their head of what is minimal quality, or they will be voted out of the universe by the Galactic Council of Quality. And since they don't have enough time and resources to get there because they're busy, there's a dog that needs to be walked, and there's kids, and there's life, and they also need to cook once in a while, and maybe see some friends. And by the way, the day only has 24 hours. So they don't have enough resources and time to actually get it to that level. And they say, oh, but if it was just a little bit better, or if we just had a little bit more time, or this tool, or this resource, or this whatever that they don't have, then they'd be fine. But they don't. So they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And if there's no deadline, then it rarely gets out the door. If there is a deadline, then they will stress themselves unnecessarily and get it out the door. And if they are really perfectionist, they will get it out the door 1 second before the deadline, and they will hit themselves on the head because it wasn't better. And the less perfectionist they are, the more they'll be, it's fine. They're not going to notice anyway. And I think part of the reason there, now we talk Taylor Swift, is that Taylor Swift on her worst days is probably, now I don't know how well you sing, Robert. You look like a guy who can hold a room, like, right? But I don't know if you sing as well as Taylor Swift, but I'm going to assume not for the purpose of this conversation. And I certainly can't sing. That's a fair, right? So it means that even on her worst days, Taylor Swift as a stage performer, as a musician, is vastly better than us, right? Even Taylor Swift, hungover, not remembering the lyrics, stressed out by something, her dog is sick, whatever it is, she's still going to get on that stage where she's been a million times before, and she's going to blow people out of the water. Even on my best days, I'm not going to be able to take a guitar and make anything that is impressive. The perfectionist measures against what they can do. The non-perfectionist measures against some sort of outside quality scope. And that means that no matter how well I try, I cannot play basketball very well. I might be able to learn, but currently I just don't have that. I can't play music. I can't sing. There's a lot of stuff I don't do rather well. There are some things, though. Put me on a stage and say, you're not here for the music, Klaus. You've got a crowd of 50,000 people and you're here to blow their minds with a talk. I can be hungover. I can be tired. They can change the title 2 minutes before I go on stage, and I will still rock that because that is where I live and breathe. From a perfectionist side, sure, it's going to be terrible compared to what it could have been, but it's still going to be pretty damn good because that is a place where I'm a very, very high level performer. There are other places I'm a terribly low level performer. And the perfectionist tends to, in my experience, to confuse those two and look at what is possible compared to what I could do. Oh no, I could have done better, so it wasn't good enough, rather than were people happy? And that's why you'll see perfectionists walk off a stage or have people over for dinner and who say, oh my God, this was the best thing ever. That pasta carbonara, heavenly. And they'll say, oh, but no, it wasn't good. And you should have seen the one I did last weekend, or I didn't get the eggs just right, or whatever it is. Right? This idea of judging yourself by your own standards instead of by outside standards. And if I have to give one thing as a tip, that is that. Stop looking at yourself because A, nobody cares, and B, it's a moving target. Look at people outside, and when you fuck it up completely, be very, very happy that you're not Taylor Swift. So one of the things I see is that one of the tricks to getting people out of this hole is for them to first face their arrogance. And when I say that, it's because most people who are perfectionists, who are this, oh, but I have very high standards of quality and it must be this, or who have these extreme demands on themselves, don't necessarily have them on other people. And getting them to realize that there's actually quite a bit of hidden arrogance there. Underneath the humility, there's arrogance, is for most of them an aha moment. And it's often also a painful one, but an insightful one. And just to explain what I mean by that is that, let's say that you are a brilliant cook, and everybody who knows you says Robert does, again, the best, the spaghetti carbonara, beautiful, the lamb shanks, anything that man touches food wise is brilliant. But when I go over to eat at your place and it was brilliant, I compliment you, say, oh, it was nothing, it was nothing. Then what you're saying is, sure, 100 people have told me this, Klaus, but I don't believe them because I know better. I know that I almost missed up the seasoning, or I know I had to use ersatz eggs instead of the real farm bred ones that I normally use from my local place, yada, yada. So you know that we're wrong because we don't have the full picture. And that's pretty damn arrogant, right? If you have people whose opinion actually you should trust, whether they are experts or there's just enough of them or whatever it is, in this case, your dinner guests, then if they say, we really like it, you are a talented chef. And you constantly say, no, 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 because you know they're wrong. That's pretty arrogant. And most people who have this perfectionist uh, slant to them, they also have a large part of humility. They don't want to be too, they don't want to be assuming. They don't want to put themselves in the spotlight. They want to like, no, 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 it's not that good. And they're trying to be humble. But what they're really saying is, yeah, your opinion doesn't matter. And also your 10 friends' opinions doesn't matter. And also this established expert in the field, your friend who's a Michelin chef who said, oh my God, Robert's brilliant. It doesn't matter because I know better. And once you get them to realize that that humility is covering a layer of arrogance, then they usually go, ooh, 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 but I don't want to be arrogant. I was like, my opinion is not worth more than these 100 people. Well, then maybe the 100 people who said you're brilliant on stage, or you write well, or your poetry is amazing, or your ice sculptures are fantastic, maybe trust them, even if you don't see it yourself. Because if you don't, it's a little bit arrogant. And that's usually a key to this, maybe I should trust people as much as I trust myself, if I at least claim that my opinion is not more valid than anybody else's. Or at least deal with the arrogance and say, yeah, it's because I know better. Okay, fine. Then it's not a problem. Then we have to take a different approach. But usually those people are not the ones suffering from perfectionists. They're the ones who just have crazy egos and think that they are God's gift to the world. That's a different situation. Yes, yes, definitely. And also, if we look at some of the people who really are world class in something, sports, business, love, life, philosophy, intelligentsia, a lot of them are these flawed characters who've chosen to build on their strengths instead of try to fix their weaknesses. that there are plenty of people who are really good at something, and yet they have other places where they're terrible. Steve Jobs, famous for being a driven marketing guy, innovation mind, corporate leader with strong vision, also pretty famous for saying, I only wear one particular set of shirts because that is one less decision to make. Is that a little bit weird, a little bit odd? Sure it is. But if somebody says, Steve, you need to work on that thing, you need to work on this, you need to work on that, there's always stuff you can fix about yourself. There's always weaknesses to work on. But sometimes it's saying, okay, where am I strong? And build on that instead of worrying too much about where I'm weak. Because it's easy to find stuff we're bad at. It's harder to find things we're good at and then put in work to become even better. So I'm on my second career now. I used to be a hardcore creative that built a business in a creative space. I used to run the world's largest live action role play design studio. And I crashed that 6 years ago spectacularly, leaving myself in more than $1 million US of personal debt, leaving myself with some people who wanted my head on a stake, and needing to reinvent myself professionally, not from the bottom up, but pretty much. And I realized one of the biggest problems I had was I had all these skills, I had all this insight and this experience and these things I knew how to do. And I'd been resisting learning the language to talk about it in a way that the people I wanted to talk with understood. And there was one quote. There was a leadership startup I was part of for a time, where one of the founders said, if you want to sell to the Russians, you better learn how to speak Russian. And of course, she wasn't talking about actual Russians. She was just talking about that if you want to sell to somebody, you cannot expect them to buy if you're speaking your language, not theirs. And I realized then I had one of these, fuck, Klaus, you're an idiot moment, where I realized that I'd spent 15 years trying to talk to people about why what I did mattered to them or could matter to them, but I hadn't bothered to learn their language. And I'd been having variable levels of success. And then I started putting in the work and started learning, what the hell does ROI mean? How does venture capital work? What does it mean to be a C-level executive? How is life if you are on the corporate ladder? What is all this stuff that's not necessarily part of like a small business creative's life, but is very much part of somebody who works as a middle manager with 300 people under them in a huge corporation? What does that life look like? What is that thought process? What is that reality? What does that language look like? I learned how to speak business, and I did not know how to before. And suddenly